to the Grey Man Podcast. This retired counter-terrorism agent, lifelong martial artist, and personal defense expert joins his best friend, producer Jim, to talk about personal defense and world events. This is The Grey Man, Mike Syme.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Grey Man.
Cheers.
Salute, we took a week off.
Season 2 rolls on. Yes, a week off. That happens.
It does, and it's okay. Some people probably get tired of hearing us. They put out so
necessary.
much. It's every week.
Yeah. Well, would you just stop? So then, and the reason we took it off, I was nowhere near a place where I could do a decent recording when we normally do this. Speaking of which, this is Season 2, Episode...
Number 7.
7, you got it. All right. Last week, and recording on the 28th. Happy last day of February, right? It's not a leap.
It's not a leap year. Yep.
Tomorrow no, it's an odd number. So yeah, we're good. So I was in Las Vegas last weekend. My wife and I went down for a quick weekend, just getaway, and to get some sun. Which, obviously, those of you watching online, I know I'm still as pale as I ever was. I didn't do much. The most time that I spent in the sun while we were in Las Vegas was outside of a place called Planet 13. And Planet 13 is the largest marketplace of marijuanas in Vegas for sure. Maybe anywhere, but that's their big thing. Is they're the biggest place. I wanted to try it out. Don't know if I've told this story here before. So I did marijuanas when I worked in radio long time ago. I was a young man just starting a family. There was a couple guys in radio that did the things with the water bonging, and the first time somebody pointed this out to me, that you can't try things twice. You can try it once and then you just do it the second time. Mm-hmm. The first time I tried it, didn't really get much out of it, so I did it again and still didn't get much out of it, so I didn't think it was worth the risk. Well, went to Vegas, got me a couple of little gummy things. Are you familiar with the little gummy, the THC,
Yep.
right? That's the thing that's
No, I have no idea how drugs come in what forms.
We'll come back
this is
around
all
to
new
that.
to me.
Yeah, we'll come back around to that. So 5, apparently, what the sales guy told me, very professional, nice young man, tipped him, because apparently that's what you do. But so he said, here's 2 of these, and it's equal THC, and what's the other thing? The CBD, right? The two it's equal parts. 5 milligrams of each. And he said, you're going to take this and then wait a couple hours. And if you don't feel anything by then, that's weird, being this your first time. But if you still don't feel anything, take the second one, and then you'd be ready for the ride. But don't take them both together. So I did that, and 2 hours later, nothing. Still nothing. I don't know if there's something wrong with me that I can't have marijuana's make things happen in my body.
Well,
so maybe there's others out there that I was thinking heroin, actually.
Oh, there you go. Go to the horse, yeah.
Yeah, just dive in if we're going to do this thing. So I'm not sure what that means for my life, but I've done it now. I've done the thing. I've tried the candies, and no bueno. So that's where I've been. How's things in your world?
Well, we had, in the same weekend you were in Vegas, we had our jiu-jitsu seminar up here. Straight Blast Gym is the organization that we're under. We had second-degree black belt Ray Price up here, and not first degree, but black belt Tom Haken, who's Ray, my coach, second-degree black belt. Tom is Ray's very first black belt ever promoted, so I've known Tom, met him when he was a purple belt. I got a chance to roll with him as a black belt, and that was fun in a jiu-jitsu sort of way.
Yes.
There's voodoo, and I tell people this all the time, man. There's just voodoo. There's just some voodoo and an understanding of time, space, and pressure and movement that a black belt understands that still is beyond me. So that's what I'm working for. And, oh, by the way, I have a complete break under the head of my fibula.
Oh, yes.
And a small fracture on my lateral malleolus, which is your ankle. Sprained my ankle pretty bad about a week and a half prior to the seminar.
Yeah.
And, so it was all around good times. Yeah, so I taped up my ankle and just threw some pain medication down my gullet, and did the whole seminar. Rolled around a little bit.
Yeah, have you?
No, I don't recommend that for everybody, by the way.
Yeah, that's a purple belt move, right?
Yeah. That's a white belt choice. As a brown belt, I could have made better decisions, but I did not. I don't get to see my coach very often, so I made the decision to participate as much as I could.
Yeah.
And I certainly didn't do the jiu-jitsu seminar all the way out through. There were some things that they were doing that I could not physically do because I can't put pressure. I couldn't at the time put pressure on my right leg because the break is a break. Even though the fibula is not a weight-bearing bone, it still sucks when you put weight on your leg. So, I had that going for me. So we didn't go to Vegas with you guys. We did jiu-jitsu instead.
I'm assuming that you had the THC available at that event also, right? Like, is that a jiu-jitsu thing?
It's a jiu-jitsu thing. No, we did not have it available, but we did have the CBDs because I use that stuff I bathe in it and I take the elixir. So lots of CBD along my leg and elixir. And then when I wasn't doing that, I was prescribed pain medication because when the injury happened, I know. Sorry guys, we're going off. We haven't even talked about the topic for today yet, or the gray man scale, for God's sake.
Yeah, we'll do all right.
When I was injured, I went in the first time, and I'm getting recertified as an EMT, and I'm rolling into paramedic school, and so I had injured my leg, and I had done all the assessments for a musculoskeletal injury, and I knew that I was failing them for a broken bone.
Yes, and I just need to point this out for our listeners and Mike, so you did regale us on the last episode about this.
Oh, did I? Okay, so I'm done. So yes,
I know you're still processing this, and I know you need to tell the story a few more times.
Dude, I'm so angry. I'm so angry about this. The first guy doesn't get the break. I walk around for a week with that thing broken. The second person finds the break.
Oh,
Mike,
that's good.
Why are you so stubborn? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's because doctors give me 5 minutes and won't listen to you.
It's called practicing medicine. If they were any good at it, they wouldn't be practicing anymore.
That's true. You know and so all of that leads up to this statement. That's why I did the jiu-jitsu seminar. I just taped up my ankle and went in there. I went in hot, man, because if I can walk around for a week with a fucking broken fibula without anything wrong. Yeah, see, I didn't even make it.
There it is. Yeah,
10 minutes into the episode, right? I certainly can just suffer through a jiu-jitsu seminar. But I've been in my boot, and I've been doing all the right things and following the protocol since, so don't yell at me out there. Yeah. Anyway, so
you'll get yelled at.
Episode 7, here we are.
Yeah. And episode 007, and you, sir, have a gray man scale to lay on us. So it's been a couple weeks. We're at the end of February 2021. The things they have been crazy. Last year was crazy. This year still not so much in the last couple of weeks. So what's new? What do you know of?
We're a month into a month into the new administration, and there's still violence against law enforcement officers out there. Portland is still burning. The violence has actually gotten worse out there now. If you're not following that, you should be. They're passing they're trying to pass some laws in Congress to help root out extremism. But the way they're going about it is very Patriot Act-ish, which I don't like. And now there's House Resolution 1, and if you guys are not familiar with that, I highly recommend that you go out and you read about it. But that is giving Congress significant power over the electoral process. They want to lower the voting age to like 16. And if you're an illegal in the United States and your state will issue you an ID card, even if you're illegal, they won't allow you to vote. And there's many other things within this bill that really trouble me because, one, of what they are, and I'm kind of a center-right guy, and two, because the Democratic Party controls Congress, both sides, and they control the White
presidency.
House. Yeah. So all of these things can get pushed down our throat, and I think they have long-term detrimental effects. Trying to circumvent the Constitution for electoral expedience and that kind of stuff. So for me, today, we're at a 6 because of all of this that's going on. That has actually raised the scale for me. Because the more of this stuff that happens in the East, the more agitation you get from the right. and we've already seen agitation from the far right.
Oh yeah.
And Rochelle and I were we were having we've had this conversation over the last couple of days, and I firmly believe, and I don't know how, and I don't know when, and I don't know where, but our democratic republic is going to change. Anybody who's heard me talk about it, I've always said that I believe we've passed the apex of our republic. It was just post World War II, and we're on kind of the backhill slide of it. And the more we push, and this is going to make somebody's head explode. And I found out we have made somebody's head explode already.
Oh, nice.
I can tell that story. Yeah, it's really cool.
All right, yeah, let's get to that a little bit later. Yeah.
But this will make somebody's head explode. But I'm not talking about inclusion, the inclusion culture. Like everybody has to be included in everything. Although I don't agree with that either. That's not how society really. That's not how human beings work. That's not how we're wired. We are wired to an extent to be excluding because that's how tribes are made and formed and defended and all of that. But
have to have a tribe.
there is a difference between equality of opportunity and equality of outcome. And the closer we push to mandatory equality of outcome, the closer we get to the death of a democratic republic. And I think we are real. That train has left the station when it comes to equality of outcome. Everything has to be about equality of outcome these days. It can't be about equality of opportunity, which is actually what the Constitution guarantees you, is the equality of the opportunity to pursue something, not the equality of outcome of everybody else.
Yeah, do your own
because
work.
Because one is a democracy, a republic, equality of opportunity. Equality of outcome is actually something else that Karl Marx talked about.
There you go. Yep. That sounds very communal, if you will.
Yes. And we've got over a century of failed states that show you that shit on this side definitely doesn't work.
But we're America. We can do it right.
Yeah.
We'll be fine.
Well, when you got universities teaching that America was the bad guy in the Cold War, and you've got an entire generation that believes that. Oh, no, I've had those conversations too. Anyway, so yeah, all of that,
So
you put all of
6
that
is
in
what
one
you're saying.
mixing pot, and it really puts me at about a 6.
Yeah.
And rising.
So somebody's head has exploded. Before we get into our subject for the day, let's talk a little bit about that.
So
I've had some feedback on the show too, but yeah, I want to know yours.
A relatively new listener, I think. My daughter and son-in-law have some friends. I'm going to keep names out of it.
Yeah.
Some friends that live in the state, but just started listening and are on the political spectrum, are not on the same side that I am. For me, and I'm a pretty center right guy, but I'm moving farther right than I used to be because of all the nonsense that's on the left right now.
All right.
But they're of a very liberal mindset, and I don't say that in a negative way. That they just are in a liberal mindset. And he was talking to my son-in-law about having just started listening to The Gray Man, and it was one of our early episodes. And I had said something, and he was telling my son-in-law like, "Hey, yeah, Mike said this, and it made my head explode." And then he goes, and then literally. The next thing out of his mouth was, "I bet you I just made somebody's head explode."
That's awesome.
I'm like, so yes, that I've done my job.
Future, yes.
But I appreciate him listening.
Yeah.
We want feedback from all sides. We talk about this all the time. We don't want it to be monopolar in view. That is how we get into the problems that we have right now, because we are so monopolar on the right, and then like the left is only you can't be center anymore. The world used to be center, left or right. You can't be that anymore. I can't dislike Trump and dislike Biden. If I dislike Biden, then I automatically support Trump. But you talk to the people on the right. If I disliked Trump, then I must be a Democrat.
Yeah. Well, it's funny
first off, I'm a fucking American. So. Yeah.
But it's so part of our culture. It's so part of our vocabulary. You even said it. He's on the other side. No,
and it's been in recent history, right?
Right.
And we've always had political parties, and you can say he's on that side of the political spectrum, and that is correct vernacular. And when discussing somebody's viewpoint of the world and politics, there is center, and then there's going far right of center and far left of center. So to say about somebody or in a conversation, that view is center left, or it is on the left, that is on the other side of center, on the other side of my view of center is perfectly normal. What the problem becomes is when it's us versus you versus me.
Right.
Well, your side said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do. And I think in terms, when we have this spectrum, I understand what you're saying, and it's obviously a very simplified means of describing humanity, because there's more than just one line that happens, right? There's up, there's down,
there's tangents,
there's
always
dimensions, yeah. So there's a lot that we could talk about there, but I think let's dig in today. The subject of today is actually talking about something that you've mentioned numerous times. Last season, this season, it's come up a couple of times, and it comes down to mandatory service.
About to hear dogs. Sorry.
Say that again?
You're about to hear my dogs barking.
Oh, there they are. Who's a good pooches?
Yeah.
So mandatory service. We've talked about that it doesn't exist here, that it has existed here. We've talked some about having had it exist in other places. And one thing that was interesting to me as we were preparing for the show today, Mike said, there's not a lot out there about this. So this is going to be a conversation. We don't have a lot to quote or dig into. It's obviously not in the Constitution, but maybe we could talk about what's not there. And with Mike, with your experience, lay it on us. Let's get into mandatory service and what that might mean for us.
Yeah, and there's a lot of compulsory service is the norm in a lot of countries. Serving for 2 years. Israel is a perfect example. Every Israeli citizen serves in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, for 2 years.
What type of government does Israel hold today?
They're democracy.
Yeah.
Yep. So they have this, but they're a small country, and they're they believe they're surrounded on all sides by enemy. And in using terms that I've heard from them, don't anybody's head explode. I'm discussing it in terms of threats to the way Israel looks at the world, right? So everybody has to serve 2 years, and they believe it gives you skin in the game, and then you're more willing to defend the country even when you're not in service. And we had mandatory service up until the end of the Vietnam War here in the U.S. We
as part of the Vietnam War, or
no? Long before that, we instituted the draft again for World War II, and then kept it. Like even in the 50s, you could be drafted to service. Your your number came up, and you served. My math teacher in high school actually served in the Army. He was drafted. He didn't join. His draft notice came up, and it was, I think, from like 54 to 57. The Army used to do like 2 and 3 year enlistments a long time ago.
So in what capacity did he have to serve then?
He served on active duty. He went into the infantry. He was an infantryman. Actually, I think he was a mortarman, if I remember correctly.
And it wasn't part of any
no
active...
conflict. He never deployed yet. Nope. He didn't go to Korea. He didn't go to Vietnam. Nope. He just was. His number came up. Pow. Served. So we've had the draft before, and that of course went all the way through Vietnam, and it ended with Vietnam. And in the military, so when it comes to the profession of arms and the history of profession of arms, and that's classes that you must take in the military for professional education. When I was an officer, all the schools that I went through had that in it. We always took a profession of arms class. When I was enlisted, it was the same way. You took that class at a professional military education school. We consider the beginning of the professional volunteer military 1974, post-Vietnam. Okay? There's no more draft. You came into the military because you joined, because you wanted to join. There were Vietnam-era individuals in the military when I joined. I had E9s that had served in Vietnam that I worked under when I joined the military, but they I quickly started retiring. That's 90, early 91, 92, 93, that kind of stuff. They started retiring, but so we had that too. It's not uncommon in the world for compulsory, mandatory. Let's just go with that word, mandatory service.
I like it.
Command decision. Bam, mandatory service. So that's not unheard of, and I'm not generally opposed to it. But I am opposed to making mandatory service military only.
All right. Talk more about that. What does that look like?
Yes. because then you get the Vietnam era military post like 69, 70, where there are a lot of problems because people are getting forced to go into the military and serve in some place in a war or some place there doesn't have to be a war going on. Some place that they don't want to be and don't believe in. Or Afghanistan right now, we're still in Afghanistan. We've been in Afghanistan 20 years now. Right? Imagine having a mandatory draft where we are drafting soldiers to go fight in Afghanistan who are absolutely opposed to the reason we're there. Right. How do you think that plays out with morale and discipline?
Well, it plays out a lot like Vietnam, right?
Exactly. So I'm not a huge fan of compulsory military service. I do believe, however, that every able-bodied male should serve at least 4 years in uniform, whether that's Guard, Reserve, or active duty. I believe that being a 23-year veteran, because I think serving gives you a better appreciation of the country which you live and serve and support.
So in the military, but not necessarily in combat. Like, what other options are you talking about? If you're saying not necessarily...
not even in the military. I think we should have mandatory service, but we should have options. Because a lot of, right now it's all about either schools should be free, universities should be free, like they are in some European countries, or that all student debt should be forgiven, which is a whole other podcast we could get into because...
I would be happy to have that discussion, please.
Oh, my God.
Yes,
economically, are you kidding me?
Mark
but
down,
we're not even going to touch that now. We're not going to touch about how retarded that idea is right now. Anyway.
What now?
So I don't, if people are clamoring about, school is expensive, we need to get paid for. Cool. I'm okay with that. The military paid for my bachelor's. They paid for one of my associates. They paid for my bachelor's, and they paid for one of my master's degrees. And that was the GI Bill. I served and gave a portion of my paycheck. It wasn't just free money. I had to give a portion of my paycheck and a term of mandatory service to the military. And in return, they gave me a certain umbrella amount of money to go to college. And when it was gone, it was gone. Right? And if you're still on active duty, there's tuition assistance you can get. If you're on active duty, you're still taking more colleges. But the military doesn't pay for double degrees. Like if I already have a bachelor's degree, they're not going to give me tuition assistance to get another bachelor's degree in a different area.
All right.
Or if I have a master's degree, they're not going to pay for me to get another master's degree in a different area. So there are limits,
a couple
right?
Of degrees.
I do, yes. So one of them, the military sent me to get, and that was international security studies, right? That was one of my payback tours. In Monterey, I went to grad school, and then we went to Europe. The second master's degree that I have, I used my GI Bill for.
All right. So there are ways to double up, but it has to do with how you serve.
Exactly. I had to burn my GI Bill for that. Right? The military had just allotted me a certain amount for education, and then it was mine, and I could have gone and got my private pilot's license with it. There are civilian certifications you can kind of get with it too, like trade.
Sure.
Certifications you can get with the GI Bill. But anyway, so I used my GI Bill for that. So that's fine. If you want free college, awesome. We have a way for that right now. Go to the recruiter. Any of the services to include the reserves and the Guard. And sign up, and you can get your college paid for. Or if you're talking about mandatory service, and military is just abhorrent, like, oh my God, I can't believe you'd make people go serve in the military. I'm not, like I said, I don't want people to go serve in the military. I don't want mandatory service.
If they don't want to be there.
Yeah, I don't want them here if they don't want to be here. Trust me, that's bad for everybody. Well, how about we add it's almost like a civil service. Mandatory service for civil service, either here in the U.S. or overseas in a Peace Corps type option. Because I will tell you that although I bleed red, white, and blue anyway, what made me appreciate this country the most, and I've always loved, I was raised to be a patriot. I don't believe that nationalism is a bad word. But it wasn't combat that made me love this country more. It wasn't just serving in uniform that made me love this country more. It was being in absolute abhorrent shitholes around the world with abject poverty surrounds you that made me appreciate what I had here in the U.S. Our poorest citizen is still in the top percentage of earners globally. If you look at it, if you're looking at real poverty, right? I've seen real poverty in Central America. I've seen real poverty in Africa. I've seen real poverty in the Middle East. Real poverty. And that made me appreciate this country more. And one of the things that Rochelle and I have talked about is eventually what I would like to do is go do a missions trip someplace in Africa or the Levant or something like that, and to give back, to build, and I feel that's still part of my service because I appreciate what I have so much here. So you don't want to be in the military? Fine, don't go in the military. But I still don't feel like you should get your damn college paid for just because you're an American citizen. Congratulations, you're one of 350 fucking million other of us. You're not special because you were born here. You're not. You have the opportunities that a lot of other countries don't have, but that doesn't make you fucking special, and you don't get everything on a silver platter because you're here and you want it. So how about we do those? So how about we have a program where you serve 4 years in an inner city where you're building housing and serving at soup kitchens and homeless shelters and hospitals as well. It used to be like the Candy Striper or whatever they call it now. You know what I mean? You are in the poorest communities of the U.S. serving, getting a paycheck. I got a paycheck when I served in the military. You're getting a paycheck, and at the end of that 4 years of building houses and serving the poor and pouring into your country, we give you the amount of the GI Bill. My GI Bill did not cover all of my college. That's not the way it works. It wasn't college for free. Trust me when I tell you, my body will tell you that shit was not free, right?
Yeah, you paid for
I did pay for it.
Your family paid for it. And that's something that we don't talk a lot about too. Yeah.
So we could do the in the US version of that, where you give 4 years of that because you're 18, you leave this program when you're 22, and when you're in your teens, you think 4 years is forever, but it's not. It's the blink of an eye. Those of us, that are pushing half a century can tell you that. But you're 22 and you leave with skin in the game. You have invested in America, in a community somewhere that needed that investment. You have made an investment of yourself, your time, your physical resources, your mental, emotional, spiritual resources to people that can literally never repay you for that. Those individuals.
And
in return, we give you money for college. I got zero issue for that. And while you're doing it, you're under contract. And if you want to take college classes, we'll give you tuition assistance for those college classes like we do the military folks. Because we do that. I've got zero issue with that. Or you do the exact same thing, but in a partner country that the U.S. is already investing in. Because we have a ton of countries that we pump billions of dollars into a year, and their local governments are so corrupt that it just ends up in their pocket. So how about we just create programs where we send Americans over there to help them build that are not in uniform, that help them build, and you get skin in the game, and then you see real abject poverty, right? So when you come back to the U.S., you understand how good, first off, how fucking good you have it here, no matter who's in the White House, or what the political landscape looks like, how good you have it here. And we give you, here's the GI Bill to go to college, thank you, for serving your country overseas in foreign service, in the State Department's Foreign Service Department, in some whatever form that would look like. I'm okay with all three of those options.
So here's the struggle that I have. There's a few things that come to mind that I think would be difficult about it. The first one, we've talked a lot about on the podcast here about what's the main goal of a government, and that is to grow itself, to perpetuate itself.
No, the great communicator said that, right?
Yeah, and what we're doing now by proposing this, we're supporting that in a big way because now everyone is part of the thing that wants to continue to grow itself, at least for 4 years. Not everyone can be part of the military.
You have to be part of these programs, you would have to set up entrance requirements, physical. I mean, if you're going to go build houses, there's got to be physical entrance requirements, and there's got to be testing. I firmly believe that if you're going to do mandatory service and we're going to have to pay for it, you should have to earn your slot in that program.
Well, that's different.
I do. You have to in the military.
Ways to get out of it. Yeah. So there's ways to get out of it.
Yeah. So for me, yeah, exactly. So for me in the military, I didn't just show up at the recruit like, hey, I want to go jump out of planes. They're like, come on, bro, we'll send you to basic training. There are tests I had to pass. I had to pass the ASVAB. I had to pass my physical. I had to pass basic training and individual training. I had to do all of that stuff. I had to meet minimum requirements. I had to be a high school graduate. I had to have my diploma. All of these things. And then I got the opportunity, not the outcome. It was equality of opportunity to make my career what it was. There was no guarantee of equality of outcome.
Having this series of tests and essentially desire to be part of it, then how is it different than what we have now? It doesn't seem like there's much difference.
What do we have now that is equal to the other two programs that I talked about?
Well, adding the other programs, yes, but this doesn't feel like mandatory service. I was under the impression when we say mandatory service, you turn 18 and you will serve in some capacity for 4 years.
Which I'm okay with too. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so if we're talking straight mandatory service,
yeah.
I got off on the tangent of if you want your college paid for, here's a way to do it, right?
Okay. Maybe there's two separate pieces, two different. I didn't follow that split. All right.
But for mandatory service, there's going to be exclusions anyway. There's going to be physical and mental exclusions. Not everybody can get into the military because of physical disabilities, mental disabilities. And I'm sorry, people, life is not all inclusive. That's not the way it works. And we have programs to help those other individuals out already in place to help them get through college, get a degree, be productive. That we already have programs in place for that. So I do believe for mandatory service, you turn 18, you've got one of three options. You're one of three. That's it. You're going to put on a uniform. You're going to dig in here in the U.S. through civil service, or you're going to go overseas and with whatever program is in this we could build in the State Department to invest in our partner countries. Now, I understand that makes the government bigger.
Yes.
But then let's remove some of that money, that cash that we are pouring into countries that are just bleeding us dry and put it into these programs. Because I'm telling you, I've got several friends who served in the IDF, and they have skin in the game right now for Israel, and they don't even live there. And then you'll find that with veterans too. Veterans are normally, by and large, you have some exceptions, and could have been a piss poor experience on active duty, or they got kicked out or whatever. By and large, are very patriotic and love this country because we have skin in the game. Even if you never left the U.S., you didn't have a combat job, you never saw combat, you served in a job somewhere in the U.S. or in Japan or Germany or whatever, but you never saw combat, you served your country. When you talk to them, they're very patriotic because they put skin in the game. They served 4 years, 3 years, 20 years, whatever. They have an investment. We feel we have an investment into the validity of this country. And I think that is something sorely lacking in generations, in individuals, not just a generation, but generations that don't have skin, don't have that investment. It doesn't matter. I was talking about this with my coach and Tom when they came up. And I firmly believe this. The farther you move away, and I've said this before on the podcast, the farther you move away from the crucible of freedom which formed you, the less regard you have for that freedom. The easier it is to take it for granted, right?
Yeah, and you said that we had the draft, the active draft, up until the 70s. Well, I was born in 71, so I'm already of a generation that hasn't felt it. The generation before me felt it some, but it was very dissentious. Is that a word? It was a mess because of Vietnam.
Yes.
Let's just say that.
Yep.
So it was already ugly, and then I didn't feel it, and then my kids haven't felt it, and my kids are having kids already, and they're in grade school and learning from people that haven't felt it. By the way, shout out to my grandson Nate. Broke his arm a couple days ago. He's taking it like a trooper.
Get better, Nate.
You rock. He cannot listen to this show, but my daughter does, and she can pass it along to
awesome.
To Nate.
Yes, he's not allowed.
So we're not. So we're not feeling that, and this could help us feel that, and all of that makes sense, and it's part of the mad fanatical respect that I have for veterans. I think that's what I talk about when I talk about those of us that haven't served, giving reverence to those that have. And that, to me, that includes you get to speak more and louder and with more validity than a lot of others when it comes to politics, when it comes to our rights, because you get it at a level that I can't right now. So I am picking that from you. That's my intent. That's what I believe. And I don't expect others to believe that. That's not what I'm preaching about here. But what I am getting to is if we want to balance this out in this way, if we can put something in place that even 60% looks like what you've talked about, what could we possibly do to get there? I don't see either of the main political parties today going down that road. I think of the term indentured servitude coming to the forefront and trying to get a society that's as dissentious as it is right now to come together and say, oh yeah, this is a good idea and this is what could fix it. And maybe we don't have the answer on that today, but I feel like that's where we're at. Like, what could we possibly do to move the chains?
I think one of the biggest problems is this idea that because you are American, you are owed something. And we hear this a lot in conversations, in debates, in arguments back and forth. It is a common theme. And again, I will tell you, having been a guy that served 23 years in the military, this country fucking owes you zero because you're an American. Zero. The only thing that you are guaranteed are those things in the Constitution. And again, like I talked about at the beginning of the podcast, that it is equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. Everybody I served with had the opportunity to engage in the GI Bill. Not all of them did.
Right.
Everybody had the opportunity to take classes while they're on active duty and get tuition assistance. Not everybody did. Everybody had the opportunity to work really hard while still serving to get a degree and becoming an officer, when all of my enlisted friends, and they didn't. I chose to. In my peer group, we all had the equal opportunity to do certain things to advance our careers. They chose not to. I did. That's the difference. And in my civilian life now, as a business owner, there is nothing the government owes me as a business owner, except for stay the fuck out of my business. God, anyway. Different tangent. But they don't owe me equal outcome for every other business out there that's successful. That's not the way it works.
Right.
And so we've got to move forward on this idea if we were ever, and I don't think it will ever take hold. I don't. And I wish it would from the bottom of my heart, but I don't think it's ever going to. But if we were ever going to move forward on it, we would have to move away from this idea that you're owed a damn thing for being American, because you are not.
Right.
Owed a fucking thing for being an American.
Yeah, will not allow for that. There's no way that a politician that's intending to either take an office or keep an office will step up to say you're not owed anything. That's not how you get votes. Not in today's society.
That's why I said I don't think it'll go anywhere. I would love to see this option. 18 years old, get 4 years skin in the game, and in a generation, you want to see a difference in this country of Americans just helping Americans. And I'm not talking about cis boom bop patriotism, nationalism. I'm just talking about Americans caring about other Americans. Veterans, like from all services, we give each other shit nonstop in every service, right? Back and forth. But when pushed against the wall, it doesn't matter whether you're Navy, Army, Air Force, Marine, or God forbid, Coasties.
They count. They count.
They do count. Skin to my Coasties. Love you guys, Coasties. Yeah. Just kidding.
Anyone listening that has a friend that's in the Coast Guard, please pass this along to them. We would like them listening as well. Sorry, back to
yes. When our backs are against the wall, we're all one, and we would do anything for each other. And you want to know why? Because we've all had skin in the game. Yeah. So regardless of what it was.
Here's what's going to help us then. And I don't know a way that could keep us from faltering the way that you've predicted, other than a pretty significant conflict, a war of some kind that goes beyond
hits us at the dinner table.
Yeah, it's going to have to be on our soil, or something more human than drones and bombs that we don't have to deal with. I remember shock and awe Those of you old enough to remember when Mike was in the
I
sand
do.
at the time.
I might have been there.
You were there. Yeah, you dressed real pretty. I remember that.
Yep.
But I remember. So here's my perspective of shock and awe. I was at Walmart walking through when the first news broke. So I'm watching on a row of the flat panel TVs that just come out. I'm watching shock and awe and feeling the impact of it. But beyond knowing you and the fact that you were there dealing with this, it was, well, I guess we're going to take care of that business. And, what's for dinner? I got shit to buy here at Walmart. And, ugh, that's not how I want to live. That's not how I want my grandkids to grow up, right? And for our generations to come. And who knows what it looks like from here. It's a much smaller world than it ever has been because of the information flow. But that doesn't fix the disconnectedness from our neighbors, and I think that's where we're really failing each other. I've really been on a kick of together we can make it through this. That's what I preach on my radio show. That's what I'm talking to my friends about. I would like to be a better Christian in being able to disciple people better. And until I get there, the way that I'm improving myself with that is just focusing on the humanity side, and this is part of that mission for me, is just talking to others, and hopefully, if we can, from my standpoint, if we can make an impact on one person and a young adult that's listening to this now makes a decision to raise their kids in a way that is in line with the values and morals that have gotten us this far, and frankly, can do a better job than I did, and am doing. If we can help somebody get better, that to me is a success. That's what I'm here for. So that's why I talk about these things. That's why I try to poke holes in your concepts, so that if it's a good idea, let's make sure it's a really good idea. And this one does sound good. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime unless there's something serious. I still hope for that. The sunspot, the solar flare that blows everything out and we have to start over. Part of me hopes for that. The other part really likes having memes on my phone. So I'm not sure where I stand on that.
Yeah, and a microwave that can warm up my coffee when I've let it sit for too long. Yeah,
yes, wash my glass so I can pour some more whiskeys in there.
Exactly.
Buffalo Trace today. How about yourself?
Woodford Reserve, my go-to.
It is your go-to. Yeah.
I do really strongly believe in mandatory service, but in a variety of options. So I rarely talk about mandatory service because when people hear that out of my mouth, they think of my background and that I must be thinking about military service. And while I value military service, and I'm proud of my son, he's going to basic this summer. That's not the only way to serve your country. There are other ways we could get to this. But, I got to talking about mandatory service because everybody wants free college. Well, shit, we got a fucking way to get you free college right now, dude. Any of the recruiters down at the recruiting station will help you out.
Yeah. And let's take it to the other extreme. Free is what you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. So if you really want free service without putting anything into it, think about the public education system the way it is now. Do we really want to expand that? And
it's not free because somebody has to pay for it. That's tax dollars, right?
Right.
So if my tax dollars have to be going for something, let me get a return on my investment for that tax dollars. And how about we just reinvest in humanity with those tax dollars?
That's crazy talk. You know that.
I know. I'm just. It's the old age. It's the gray creeping in.
Yeah, it is indeed. All right. Well, listen, we're doing good things here. We're saving the world. We'll eventually get all these things put into practice, and then we can say that we were right. I think that's really what we're after here.
Yes, that's what we're after long term.
Is to prove that.
Yes.
In the meantime, we've got some shitty choices to face, and I'm excited for this. It's been a couple weeks. I actually had to go back and make sure the list was up to date. And going back to last week, I do need to ask how many times anyone tapped your ball sack in the last 2 weeks. Is anybody up to date on the?
No, thank God I have. Can say nobody's walked up and
just no random taps.
Yeah, gave the old sack rattle. No.
All right, that was for those those catching up now. That was last week's choice, and we've got a couple others. We've got the big shit we'll talk about in a little bit, and the rules again. You've got two choices plus the third big shit. which we'll continue to replace as necessary. There are some double shits that we've added in. Distance-based big shit, which we're actually dealing with right now. We're reducing the distance until that actually becomes a choice. And our big shit right now is anyone within X amount of feet is aware of your intentions. We started at 25, and we've whittled it down, and we're now down. So the big shit this week, anyone within 5 feet of you is aware of your intentions. That's choice number 3, getting through the numbers there. And to get to the other 2, we've got 20 on the list, and Mike will roll the 20-sided die from the Goblet of Gray. There you go. And the first number is
3.
Number 3. Your belly button smells like one of those pine tree air fresheners, and it increases in intensity as your irritation level rises. So I'm going to go over that again because that one I put a lot of time into that one. So your belly button, it always smells at least a little bit like those pine tree air fresheners. So not bad, right?
Yeah.
You can put up with that. But as you get irritated, it gets more and more powerful until you smell like a freaking Christmas tree lot. Just that pine tree over, and it's chemically too, which I don't know about you, but that drives me crazy. Any scent that has to be reproduced through chemicals, I don't like it. I don't like it big damn.
Neither.
So there you go. You've got a pine tree air freshener belly button.
It increases in intensity when I'm mad.
Yes,
Got it.
Yes. All right. So let's shake again. Let's see what we get next time. There we go. Number 3 so far, and number
8.
Number 8. I don't think we've had that yet. This is going to be hard for you. The only time you can perform sexually is when the song Who Let the Dogs Out is playing. Who let the dogs out? You did with your wiener, because that's what you're doing. So that's how's that for that?
That's super romantic, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
How I couldn't just not pick that one.
Yeah. Well, all right, fair enough. This might be an easy choice because you've got the. Yeah. So
anytime it was playing and I was in the bathroom by myself, people would obviously know what was happening.
It would become your kryptonite, because if you're ever on mission and somebody pulls up and starts blasting "Who Let the Dogs Out," you're gonna be like one of those dogs air humping as you're trying to take down the bad guys.
Bow, bow. Yeah, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, girl. So I got a belly button that smells like a pine cone.
Pine tree air freshener.
Pine tree, yeah, but increases in intensity with my level of irritation, which lately I would definitely be smelling like a Christmas tree lot, and I am not a fan of that. Chemically,
you would be clearing sinuses as you walk everywhere.
Yeah, and then
so you've got that.
So I got Who Let the Dogs Out is the only time I can perform sexually.
Mm-hmm. Or anyone
within 5 feet of me.
Yeah, knows your intentions.
Knows my intentions.
Yeah. That's a variety of things. There's a lot of pros and cons for each of those.
That's like the potpourri of shitty choices. Pun intended.
The shitty potpourri.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
Yeah. Well, he's going to have to take a sip to contemplate this one, and as he does, I'm really thinking about that air freshener thing. I
hate the overwhelming smell of pine trees. That is that really intense, like a really intense air freshener or car will give me a headache.
Oh.
So I can't.
So
that one's out.
That one's out. Yeah. All right.
So I can either only do the deed to Who Let the Dogs Out, or anyone within 5. You know what?
Maybe an important question. An important question before. How does Rochelle feel about Who Let the Dogs Out? Like, do you want to check with her quick?
No, I mean, she's not a fan, so it's not going to work out well for me. Yeah, so it's going to be a choice. Yeah.
All right.
So that's not a good choice for me either. Honestly, I'm okay with a 5-foot bubble.
Wow.
100%. 5-foot bubble, 0 issue, dude.
I didn't, much like.
Because of the way I am. I mean, you've been out in public with me.
Yeah.
I am aware of people long before they get to 5 feet.
That's true. And,
so you know what? I'm going with the 5-foot bubble.
Yeah, that's all right. Wow, we have selected the big shit, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like we need here. Hold on, let me find. Oh, here it is. Here, I think we got it. Need a sound effect for that. There it is. We've got the big shit has been selected. So 5 feet. Anyone? So if you really want to get in,
Yep,
here's
I'd do 5.
something though. Rolling is going to be much different for you now. You're going to have to not think about what you're doing.
Yeah, dude, that's true. You know what's funny is I didn't think about that. I guess my jiu-jitsu is just going to get better. I'm going to have to be early. I'm going to have to be earlier on the objective now. That's it.
Before you even think about it. Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Well, let's
be so instinctual that I'm not thinking about it.
We're going to have to figure out how to do what the new shit is, because I'm going to have to... Well, the first one you threw out was the belly button thing, so I think that becomes the big shit. Would you agree?
All right, yeah, and then you'll just have to add to it, perhaps. Make it...
There we go. All right, well, that does it for Episode 7 of the Gray Man Podcast Season 2. Mike, any final words as we've talked today about mandatory service for our country?
Really, I think the only way to bring us back from this divisive nature that we have going on right now that is really centered around politics is to get all Americans to have skin in the game. And I think mandatory service is one of the ways to do that, but that gets us all pulling on the same branch, and it stops the hyphenated American, which I think is, again, part of the problem, and that's party politics. Just be an American and be a good human being. And when you've invested in this country, when you've poured into it and you have skin in the game, you feel vested in the country itself. I really do think that just makes you a better American and a better human being overall. So,
very cool. I think that'll do it. Well, we'll be back next week. And, God willing, and the creek don't rise as always. And we've got more things to talk about, more world events, more personal defense. I think we're due for some defense next week. What do you think?
I think so too.
Let's get in there and wrestle around a little bit now that your intentions are known within 5 weeks. You've got some new things to think about. Take care of yourself, my friends. Be good to each other. Cheers.
Salute.
Find us on Facebook, YouTube, and your podcast app at The Gray Man Podcast. All rights reserved 2020. Skunk and Gator Creations.